Hello.
Hello.
Hello again. How's it going?
Hi. I'm good. Unfortunately, Chris couldn't be here. He's taking a break from the podcast due to some health issues. So
Oh,
Oh,
bless
that's
it's
him.
okay.
just me. It's just me today.
Yeah, I was hoping to get a bigger group of us together as well, but then it didn't quite transpire, so it's
Yeah.
just us two as well
Yeah,
again.
it's
Yeah,
fine. That's fine. Life happens, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
But he does send his regards and he wishes he could have been here. So
Oh,
Oh, well.
that's
Hope he's
good.
better soon.
hopefully he'll be back on the podcast in no time. But yeah, so you guys got some exciting things to talk about. I mean, how have you guys been since we last spoke? It was back like in
Yeah,
March.
yeah. I actually had a look this morning to see like when the last time it was, and it was before the album. Well, not the album tour, the last headline tour we did in April, and it was I think just before we released Make Me. Yeah, I
Was
think it was
it?
just like literally just before the first single. So
Bloody hell.
now obviously the album's out,
Yeah.
so it's been a busy kind of 6 months ish, just under. Um, and yeah, it kind of feels like a long time ago, I guess,
Uh,
in kind of what's kind of happened since then. But yeah, no, it's been a really fun and exciting kind of time, I suppose.
Yeah, I know you guys went on some tours and stuff as well in that time frame. How were those?
So we had a headline tour in April, which was just kind of a little short one, just because we hadn't really done any. We hadn't actually done a headline tour since our last album tour, which was in June 2022. So that was quite nice to just do a couple of our own shows, and for the most part, it went really, really well. And then we had a tour in July, which was a little longer, and that was with a band from Australia called Future Static. Um, who are an absolute bunch of legends, and it was really, really good fun. We basically, the reason it got organised is because we were both playing at Radar Festival, which is in Manchester in the UK. It's an awesome festival, kind of a real big blend of lots of different stuff, but I guess progressive is kind of the underlying theme. And it's a festival that actually originated in Guildford, where we're currently based, and then it's kind of grew a lot over the last kind of 4 or so years, obviously with kind of a little break in the middle. And Yeah, it was really, really awesome to do both the festival and the tour with Future Static. It was a really, really good tour, fun times. And then we're actually about to go on tour again in a couple of weeks, which will be the album release tour. So
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about the new tour coming up as well, and how excited you are to go back out on another tour.
yeah, it'll be fun, I guess, as well. Like obviously coming from a support tour, like playing like half an hour, 40 minutes. And like now we've got that album like actually released. It'll be really nice to like throw in some of the songs that we haven't played yet from the new album, and just kind of play some of the old tunes that we haven't played in a little while too, and just do a few more dates as well, because it's a little bit of a longer one, this one. So yeah, but I mean ultimately going forward as well, like we've toured the UK quite a bit, so I think our goal for next year is hopefully to get overseas in some capacity. Um, we'll see what we can sort out.
Come to Wisconsin.
Oh,
yeah.
honestly, we'd love to get over to the US. Like, fingers crossed, we can make it over at some point.
It'd be great. I'm sure Chris would love it too if you guys made it to like, his area, which is Syracuse area of New York. But you never know. Never know
Yeah,
where the tour is going to take you or where life's going to take you. So, but yeah, in case listeners or watchers haven't heard, you did release an album called Silhouettes on the 20th of this month already, which is only a few days ago. Uh,
yes,
how has that been? Like, how has the reaction been to the album? Have you had a good reaction from fans?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah,
been wicked. Like, it's just, it still feels a bit surreal. Like, I remember waking up, like, on release day, and it's kind of like, I almost forgot that it was coming out until, like, it got, like, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was, like, making a coffee, and I was like, something's happening today. Something, and then I go online, and obviously, like, it's kind of, there's reactions going on, and then, um, yeah, it still never really ceases to amaze us how, like, I don't know, there's a core group of kind of people that are genuinely kind of stoked by the music, um, and that's just like always so rewarding. I feel like the top three things are kind of like people getting a kick out of the music, playing live, and probably recording as well. Like they're the three things that are like
and I think with recording, it's kind of like seeing it come together. Like as you go along.
Because you're excited about recording it and you're seeing it come together, and then in the back of your mind you're like, oh, I can't wait for like people to hear that bit there that we just recorded. I can't wait until people hear that. And like,
it's quite funny how it's so delayed as well, because like, I mean, with this album it's much quicker. It's been a much quicker process because we recorded it in January. To kind of release in September is much quicker than the first album. And I think overall that's been nicer as well, because it kind of, even though that's still like a long time, that's still like 9 months to basically wait to release all of the songs. I know obviously it's been kind of fed through a few months, but it definitely feels like we're still like really excited about the songs and they still feel kind of new, which is really, really nice.
Yeah. What was the writing process like for this album compared to the last album, All in Good Time?
I would say
I think it was kind of like a consolidated and more streamlined version of what happened in the first album. Like, obviously, first album's very much like it was a struggle on many fronts. Really, in hindsight, it didn't really feel like it at the time because it was normal. But like looking back at it, it was like, you know, it was the first time that I had ever like, because obviously we couldn't meet up in a room, we couldn't like do all of that stuff because of COVID, and it was like, okay, well, I better start learning how to demo songs myself, and like really, I know I had a basic level of like home recording, but then that really encouraged us to explore that side of it. So I was kind of, there's so many things that happened during COVID where like I was actually grateful that I had the time to just knuckle down and like really hone some kind of skills, I guess.
Yeah.
Because without it, I just wouldn't have had the time, and the album wouldn't have been written, and like it's just weird how that sort of stuff works. So that was definitely the first album in a nutshell. And then the second album was like, it kind of just felt like a luxury because it was like, well, because the first album turned out so well, we were like, let's just do that again. But now that we've got no restrictions and we know what didn't work last time and what did work, we just took all the best bits, and then we kind of just felt like there was no rush. There was no like, I don't know, songs came together pretty quick. It was a bit more collaborative this time around because obviously we had time to send ideas and workshop them, as opposed to like, here's an idea, we can't really hear what you can do over it, but hopefully this is okay.
Yeah.
And then not realizing until you get into the studio that, oh, we need to change that, or like, that needs to tweak. This time round, we literally went into the studio and pretty much everything we had demoed out, we just recorded.
Yeah, or like we had an idea of like what we wanted to change in advance. I think it was because this time as well we also had the luxury of like staying over in the studio, which is the first time we've done that, which was just a really, really awesome experience. And it was kind of just like you're literally just in the album for like the whole time, but it was still like we only had 7 days there, so it was still quite a like, we need to like make sure we're not spending too much time on stuff.
Still quite hybrid, like a hybrid approach as well, because we did some stuff at home.
We did do a little bit at home. Like
it was a little bit, but it was kind of just like
extra days.
It was just like let's
some BBs.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get all the important stuff down in the studio with the producers kind of like just overseeing and overhearing everything, and then.
Well, yeah, I mean the studio time is money, right? Gotta keep on track and everything.
Yeah, it's such a cliche, but it's right. Like you can't go in unprepared, and you can't like, especially
unless you have just money to burn, really.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But really, do we all have any money to burn?
That's true.
Probably not. Some people, but not me.
Money's not real. It's zeros and ones. It's fine.
So what were some of your favorite songs on the new album that you guys just put out?
Oh man, you know what it is? I actually, since it was out, it's obviously on Spotify and stuff now, and we've just got the physicals and the so I was like, you know what, it's on Spotify now. I had like a drive, and I was like, I'll just chuck it on.
I did exactly the same thing.
I haven't listened to it. I haven't listened to it in ages. Just because obviously when you're in it, you're kind of like fed up with it. To be honest, at the end of it,
you kind of listen to it a lot and be like, "Is this alright?" Like,
and you're also
more critically.
Exactly. You're a lot more analytical in the way you listen to it. You're like, "Oh, well, that could be better. This could change." Blah blah blah. Anyway, so I re-listened to it for the first time, and I was like, "Oh man!" Like, because I've heard the singles quite a lot as well. Just the other songs on the album, man. Like, I genuinely feel like they all scratch an itch. They all scratch a particular itch, and I think it's hard to choose a favourite. I could choose my favourite at the moment, probably, and it's either. You know what? I re-listened to What It's Worth, and I actually really super happy.
I'm really happy with how that
really
one
happy with What It's Worth. So I would say What It's Worth is probably one of my favourites at the moment in Erased Obscura. They're my two at the minute.
My favourites are Tent Waste and Use on You.
Okay. My favorites are two of Jamie's, and Make Me.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Those are my favorites off the album. And then I remember you were unboxing or unwrapping that vinyl, and I was like, it's such a pretty vinyl. It's so beautiful.
It's so good, honestly. So obviously, Church Road being kind of sorting out the physicals and stuff for us on this one, and when we were first deciding colours for it, Justine sent an email and she was like, I think this combination will work really, really well with the album. So we looked at the colours and the design, and we were like, yeah, sounds good. We didn't really think too hard about it.
We didn't have any strong opinions on how it should look, and when Justine said, I think this would look great. And then it's funny because the color scheme is kind of it's quite
muted.
It's quite muted, and it's quite I don't know. It's a bit like when you go to I don't know what, a hardware or a hardware store, and you go and pick some paint, and you just see little squares, and you're like, I think it'd look all right. And it's not until you see the whole room painted in it where you're like, I don't like it, or you're like, I really like it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a similar thing. We saw it, and we were like, I guess it would look all right. And then it came, and we were like, oh my god. This just looks so cool. It
was funny as well because we didn't actually get our copies until the Friday, literally Friday just gone, the day of the release. And so quite a lot of people who got their pre-orders a little early, and also Church Road were putting photos on, and we kept seeing it being oh, I really want to see it.
Where's ours?
Yeah, but we didn't get ours till Friday, so it was so much anticipation built up to finally unbox it, and it looks super cool.
It does. The front cover is very muted, and then you open it up and you pull that record out, and you're just like, wow, look at that bright ass blue. And the splatter on it, it's beautiful. So I'm glad you guys are happy with it, even though you didn't really have too much input on it when we were asked.
Funny is this album in particular, that's another thing that's different from this album. The last album is the first album really felt because it was the first one, we had to get all of the visual stuff. We felt we needed to have it so unbelievably cohesive, because it was this is us. You've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
All the imagery and all that kind of stuff had to really paint a strong picture and just look cohesive. Oh yeah, that's Giant Walker. That, the album cover, the artworks, all of that kind of stuff. So we labored over it for ages, and really really thought, okay, well, this needs to that needs to fit that needs to fit that. And then this album came around, and for some reason it just
everything kind of
we didn't think about it at all.
Having said that, we did take quite a long time to choose the album artwork.
We did, but then
once
we weren't stressing about it. And again, once our buddy back in Newcastle, Kyle, runs a studio called The Garage. So he's wicked dude, proper talented, can mix and master, record your stuff, and you can take wicked photos as well. And he just went to the Lake District, I think, and took a load of photos, and I was kind of saw it on Instagram, and I was like, oh, that photo just looks so sick. And I was like, guys, what if this was the album cover? And everyone was like, yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
We didn't think about it too hard. We just asked them if we could use it, and that was it.
Sometimes that's how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally, yeah. It's quite nice, and everything just kind of falls into place. For sure.
So, we talked about your tour and everything. Is there anything else exciting happening with Giant Walker that you can share with fans?
I think nothing that we can necessarily disclose. I think next year is probably looking pretty good.
So there's some surprises for people next year.
Gig-wise, hopefully it kind of feels like the next stage, if that makes sense. It just kind of feels a bit more
legit.
Well, I don't want to say legit. I just think there's some
exciting stuff.
Yeah, there's some good gigs
that we can't announce.
There's just some good gigs on
but
the horizon.
But they will be coming.
Yeah, so that's looking good. I think I'm always in, and we are always kind of in sort of writing mode and just accruing different little bits here and there. So I think my goal by the end of the year is to try and navigate the voice recordings on my phone, all like 500 or something of them, and just like just have a day of sifting through them all and organizing it in like, that's an idea, that's not, that's an idea, and so on. So hopefully, like, yeah, more music. Maybe not next year, but just write more music, and yeah, we'll just see how that one goes.
We got some ideas as well for the. We got some ideas as well for the current album, like reimagining kind of stuff, like similar to what we did with.
Yeah, like different versions of songs and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, because there's a lot of songs like on the first album we did an acoustic version of Coda, which I just think that song just translates really well on acoustic, so we'll maybe try and do that for a couple of songs, or a song maybe.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
Nice. So I know a lot of bands put out covers. Do you guys ever think of doing a cover?
Isn't that funny? Because the cover thing has been a debate in our band for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's lots of different opinions on what a cover should be like.
Yeah.
And should we throw one in live? And then we end up going, nah, we'll not bother. And then we're like, well, if we're going to record one, I feel so strongly about the fact that it just shouldn't be the same thing. You shouldn't just recreate the original, because it exists. You're not going to beat it. Leave it alone. So, but like a reimagining of what the song could sound like if you wrote it is where I think the angle should be.
Yeah.
And we just haven't. We've got ideas of songs that might work, but it's almost like the amount of effort you would put into that is the same amount of that you would put into writing a completely new song.
Yeah.
For me, at least, it would 100% be
totally
that case. So, yeah, I would love to, because there's so many songs that are just my favorite songs ever that I think some of them would really translate quite well in like a different style. And I mean, my favorite example is Jose Gonzalez's his version of Heartbeats. I don't know if you've heard that song before. It was on that advert with all the bouncy balls. Like,
maybe I might know it if I listen to it.
Yeah.
But his version, the original version's by Knife Party, is it? Is it by Knife Party? Pretty sure the original version's by Knife Party or something like that. And the original, I mean, no offense, like I'm not throwing shade on the original, but like Jose Gonzalez's version is just like, it's just so good. To the point where you just wouldn't really think it's kind of his song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like
the Knife.
They're both the Knife.
I was going to say Knife Party.
A Knife Party, like a dance band or like techno. Anyway, you get it.
Not the right vibe.
It's not the right vibe. No, I don't think you guys are a dance party kind of band.
Really
not
sad.
Not like going to a rave, you know. But yeah, no, covers are very popular now, but I do get what you're saying. I would definitely want to make something my own as well and add your own little twist to things, because who wants to hear the same exact song just sung by different vocals or played differently slightly because it's not the same band. So I definitely agree with you on that aspect, that if you did write a cover, definitely make it your own for sure. But I also want to go back to the new album that came out. I forgot to ask. I was going to ask, were there any songs that gave you challenges when you were writing them and producing?
It's sometimes hard to think, isn't it? Because like you just
It was forever ago.
Yeah, delete all of that from your memory like once it's finished.
I think maybe not in the writing process, maybe recording it. Like, I think because whilst the recording process is so it's so cool, and you're like you say, you're just engulfed in the album for like a week. It obviously can get quite stressful because of that, because there is no respite. There's no day off where you're like, I will just chill today. We'll just have a listen to what we've done and we'll blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, right, go. We need this part. We need that part, blah, 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 blah. And like, I think because you do everything so quick, there's almost a moment at the end where you're hearing it all back and you're like, I don't know if I can listen to this like unobjectively anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're still listening to it with like a critic's ear, and you're still trying to like tear it to pieces.
Yeah.
And not just accepting what it is in that moment.
Yeah.
And also demoitis comes into play.
I was literally just about to say that. I think one of the real challenges that I faced this time around is I think the demos for this album were at a level that we haven't got before with the demos, in the sense of like it very much felt like they almost could be released, and I was so used to them and like had listened to them quite a bit, that then it's kind of that awkward thing where like then you hear a different version and you kind of automatically don't like it because it's different to what you've already heard. So that is always a challenge.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of flipped now, in the sense that because I've heard these versions so much now, whenever I go back and listen to the demos, I get that feeling now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, whoa, like that's completely different.
Yeah.
I know it's not completely different.
No, it's like close enough that it like takes you back, because it's like the slight changes that are weird.
But stuff like, because the demos, I pretty much played all the instruments on the demos. So the drums are all programmed, obviously. The guitar and the bass is all me. So when I hear the actual recorded stuff, it's like, oh, well, there's us.
Yeah.
That's the band playing the song, as opposed to when I hear the demos, I just hear me playing the song, pretty much. I mean, it's even got some of my BVs, like back vocals on some of the songs.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it definitely feels a bit weird listening to the demos now. But for bands looking to do the demo thing, like do not get attached to demos, especially if you're anticipating re-recording it. The other thing as well is if there's something in the demos that is sick and wicked, just take it. Just pick it up and pluck it in the in the in the new stuff, basically, because there's something to be said about, like, you can't, if it's vibe at the end of the day. It's all a feel thing, and if that feels good and it feels better than what you've got, just use that. Like, at the end of the day, the performance is what matters.
I think the song that changed the most from the demo originally was probably Round and Round We Go.
Yeah, probably. Just like we slowed it down, tempo changed, tonally what we're going for kind of changed.
The vocals definitely
took
the longest for me on that one.
In the demo process.
In the verses, especially, because it just kind of, it's this weird process with singing, when you've got like a melody and you've got lyrics and that's like obviously most of the way there, but then that final part of like, how am I going to actually sing this? Not in terms of like
just articulation.
Yeah, just like articulation and like the tone of it and kind of the intensity of it in places, and that takes sometimes so long to kind of figure out. And some songs it's just like straight away it's like, oh well, that's it. Like Time Waste, I remember, and News on You, probably why they're like why they're my favourite too. It's just because I was just like, oh well, yeah, that's it. Do you know what I mean? Like there wasn't any kind of debate.
Wasn't any finding your feet with the melody.
For sure. It was just kind of like, well, that's how you do it. Whereas some songs, for whatever reason, it's just kind of like this, it's almost like paralysis over like options of like, there's too many things that I could do here and I just don't know what the right one is. So yeah, Round and Round We Go definitely took a long time from my point of view. I remember that process of like, I think I did about 3 recordings of the vocals for the demos, maybe even more than that, to be honest.
And it was completely like just chopped up, pieced together, bits of all 3 here and there, just to like. But then once you've got that, you can then
take that and then
take that and go, okay,
studio.
That's my framework for the studio. I can refine it, and then eventually it's all one. It's all one thing in the studio.
That's probably the song that I remember like vocally probably taken a while. So You Say as well, getting the chorus. But
yeah. Well, no matter what challenges you had or challenges you didn't have, the album's out and it's a fantastic album. And I'm so glad that it's out and now everyone can hear it in full, because they've all been being teased up to then with all the singles that were coming out and everything.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to add in, because this was going to be like a shorter interview because it's our mini-sode. That's what we're calling them.
Shit.
Honestly,
no, it's fine. We're trying to keep them like 30 minutes or less, so you're good. You're good.
Honestly, that we've said all we need to say at this point about the album. Like, I think I would encourage anyone to just give it a blast, and we welcome any comments, be it positive or negative. I enjoy listening to all opinions. Yeah,
you want your feedback. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad.
I want the trolls, man.
You want the trolls?
Yeah. No,
I mean, in all actuality, the trolls do kind of help you in a way, because then people are like, "Oh, what's this?" and they pay attention to the troll comments.
Well, like to read obviously people's takes on it too, like for reviews and stuff. Because I think one of the big things is always like, sometimes by label it in a certain genre, then people have their own expectations of like what it's going to be like. So I remember like reading one review and it's about like how it could be a bit more like progressive. Yeah. And it's kind of like that awkward thing where it's like, oh, well, I guess that's because we labeled it as that. Do you know what I mean? But then for the vast majority of people, like, do they actually want that? I don't know,
it's always the trickiest part, really, like trying to pigeonhole your music. Because at the end of the day, you can't really do it. Like, and it's kind of the fatal flaw in genre, because there's so many these days.
I think it's almost like this perception of like, do people think that you go into the album having like being like, okay, we're gonna write,
we are a prog band, we have to write this,
we are gonna write this kind of thing, or it's like, no, we just write the songs and then someone afterwards goes, well, that's kind of like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite
for anyone that struggles to understand genre, and for anyone that doesn't understand why I think it's a load of rubbish. Listen to every single Metallica album, and then wait until you get to Load and Reload and go, okay, are they now not a thrash metal band anymore? Are they now like country southern rock, like in places? It's like, do they automatically all of a sudden change their genre? And the answer is like, well, I suppose so, yeah. Like, that's a country song. Listen to Mama Said by Metallica, it is a country song.
Yeah.
So I just think bands shouldn't be shackled, or the question should be, is this good? Yes or no? Yes. That's my biggest bugbear with reviews, really, is like, it's like,
well, and it's like, people just like to troll because they like to put their opinions out there. But sometimes it's like, your mothers teach you or your parents teach you, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But unfortunately on the internet, it doesn't matter.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
But I think the album's fantastic, and I'm sure a lot of other people do. So if you get any bad comments, I'm sure they're just people that don't know what they're talking about.
I mean, I'm saying that, I think the reason I want the bad comments is because we haven't got any yet.
Well, that could be good. Exactly. I'd say that's good. No one's got anything bad to say about it, so that must mean that it's amazing.
There'll be all terrible reviews next week now.
Maybe. You never know. Well, thanks for coming on and giving us an update and talking about the new album and everything. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys again. And everyone should go check out Giant Walker on all the social media platforms, and definitely give their album a listen on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever it is. It's probably on Apple as well. So, and definitely give you guys a follow.
Well, thank you so much for having us again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on.